If you asked me what was exceptional about Frost, I'd have to say that it's the students. The children here are full of life and energy and excitement. They bring with them a real sense of justice and fair play and an intellectual curiosity that I really find fascinating. This is my 25th year in working with middle school children, and I can't imagine a better place to be. Most mornings I drive to work and I think, I can't believe they pay me to work in this school. It's absolutely outstanding. The teachers at Frost are there for the children in more ways than I can count. If someone needs an extra help with a math problem, they're there. If we need to work on improving writing, I have teachers who are ready and willing to design a program to give students practice on writing to SOL prompts. If someone needs an ear to listen to a problem, they're there. They're creative, they're focused, the teachers are dedicated. They're a group of professionals who are really there for the children and available to parents as well. One of the things that I'm most proud about Frost is our integration of special education students. In addition to our general education population, we have a Gifted and Talented Center, a center for children with emotional disabilities, and a center for children who are deaf or hard of hearing. I like watching the way that all of those groups of children work together and help one another. I see a real sense of caring and commitment. I watch children helping one another out and supporting each other in ways that one can never imagine. I think it's real practice for the world that the children will be facing, and I like the way they care about one another.
What happened to the plant? Why isn't it blue?
It breathes out carbon dioxide when it's dark, and light, it breathes out oxygen.
The plants do photosynthesis. At night, they do respiration. If you think about the pond outside, you have to make an analysis there. Your animals can only do one thing. They can only breathe. We need to make sure that we have enough oxygen in the water so that they can stay alive through the winter. How can you test for oxygen?
Take a sample of water and insert some BTB into it, and if it turns blue.
Very simple. Little BTB. So, take your cups. Let's go outside. When you feel the water, it's going to feel My class came outside to check the water in the pond for the oxygen level. We've been studying cell processes in the classroom, and they were trying to make the connection between a textbook, a lab experiment with oxygen levels, and the water in the pond. And they were using an identifying substance called an indicator called bromethymol blue, BTB, for the students, and all they have to do is drop it in the water and they can tell if oxygen is present. It's been great to have the pond outside, and we use it almost every day for something that we're learning about in the book.
Hello, I'm Chris Carr. This is a group of my fellow students who helped build the pond. There are many steps in building the pond. First, we had to plan it and see how much it cost. Second of all, we had to start digging, and that's after we got some friends from the neighborhood to help us, because that was some pretty heavy work. That took a pretty long while, but after that was done, we could go to Lily Pond's facilities in Maryland and get all the tools we needed to make the pond. Once we brought that back, we started putting the pond together, and that was actually the biggest step, but once we finished that, it was pretty much smooth sailing. All we had to do was get some fish, some plants, and sit back, kick back, and enjoy it.
17 degrees, write that down, don't forget. Quickly. Go on over there. Now we're going to 50. Where is 50? 50. This class is learning about technology, comparing some of the older technology to some of the newer technology, and we're using the pond as our medium. We have been doing exercises out here with the pond in the past, and we did air temperature and we used alcohol thermometers. Now we're using alcohol versus mercury versus the CBLs, computer-based learning, which is the latest in technology for our children. It is a little handheld type computer that measures several things. What we're measuring today is temperature, but it also measures voltage and it also measures pH, depending on the probes that you use. They are also learning how to develop data tables and constructing their information on a table. They're also looking at change over time, because the first time we came out here, we picked specific spots and we drew specific pictures and we made several observations. The observations were both qualitative and quantitative. Now they are increasing the quantitative observations and hopefully, because of English classes, getting more descriptive in their qualitative observations.
I think the advantage of working with new technology is that, well, first of all, it's a lot more interesting and fun to use it. And also, it's not as boring as it would be with using the old stuff. It just makes school a lot more fun.
We talked about two types of stress that will cause your truss to break. The first one is probably the one that will cause most of them, where it actually just snaps right off. And what kind of stress do we call that? Shear. And if your truss, when you glued it on your block, was a little bit of an angle, and it starts to twist, what's that type of stress? It's called torsional. So it's going to be one of the other, okay? The activity that the kids are working on is a study in stress. Each one of the students has to come up with a design for a cantilever truss. And they're all given the same amount of materials, the same amount of time. Did you guys see what happened when he did his?
No, because he was standing in front of the block.
Snapped right off, shear stress. So keep an eye on it. And while we're working on this activity, the kids have to find out what types of stress there are. And in our project, there's probably one of two stresses that will actually break the truss. One is called shear, and most of the trusses will probably snap off right over here. And we talk about this, and they have to try to figure out ways to reinforce this. The other is, if their craftsmanship isn't up to par and it's a little bit twisted, the kind of stress will cause the actual project to turn, which is a torsional stress. What kind of stress?
Triangles are the strongest shapes, so it would make sense to have more triangles in the shape, in the design, than, say, squares or anything like that.
What's your predict on your structure, earthquake structure?
I thought maybe get like 7.5, and then it would probably just fall over itself.
Okay, why?
It's not that strong. It's just, you know, and the side support isn't that great. I supported the floors, but not much of the side. So it'll probably just fall right over.
I think the floors will just collapse itself?
No, it'll tip over, like
Tip
break
over.
off instead of falling down.
Okay. Ready to go?
Yeah.
Do it.
This is 8th grade technology systems, middle school level. Kids learn different systems in technology. And one system that we're going through is construction systems and structures. And in this class, I introduced the earthquake structure to them. So we went through and learned a little bit about earthquakes, where they happen, why they happen, and how they affect buildings, and how buildings are built, and where they are built, and how even we can have an earthquake in this area here because of fault lines that are near here. And then the students had the project of building a simulated tower, a 15-story building that was 40 by 40 feet. And so the structure was 4 inches by 4 inches by 15 inches tall. And then the metal plates emulate the weight of the structure.
I learned a lot about earthquakes in general, aftershocks, how different intensity earthquakes affect different levels of the buildings. I learned a lot about how to make a structure that triangles make the best geometric shape, and X's just put the weight evenly everywhere and support everything.
The performance, its speed is over 200 miles per hour. It climbs about 2,280 feet per second, and it has a range of 1,191 miles. Tell us about the ferry range. What does that do?
How long it can travel on fuel.
Pretty great distance, isn't it?
This is an 18-week keyboarding and technology tools class. This class starts off with touch typing. In addition to that, this is a technology class. In the second half of the 18-week class, the students are exposed to multimedia presentations, how to use practical application of computer software. One particular project that we did this week was on slideshows.
This is a very good class to have in middle school because it will help you in life all throughout the years, high school, college, and in the workplace. You can use computers everywhere nowadays.
This is the Frost homepage, and we made it with a team of mostly 8th graders, and well, we made it last year with the 2 of us 7th graders and a lot of 8th graders.
We would be like the programmers. Now we would get other people to get information for us, like for the academics page. We had to get information like for the math section and civics and English.
Right.
That's not concave.
We have here our Mathcounts team from Frost Middle School. The purpose of the Mathcounts program is to increase interest and involvement in math in the 7th and 8th grade program and to develop math skills at those levels.
It's kind of fun, and it's somewhat challenging. Most of the problems require you to think a lot, and it's more difficult than regular math class.
Once, long, long ago, in old Japan, there was a man named Urashime, and he was a fisherman. And one day, he went down to the docks, to pick up his fishing nets and go out into sea and fish for the day's catch. And he saw these 3 boys, and they were throwing rocks at this turtle, and kicking the turtle and really hurting it. And Urashime ran over there and said, "Stop, stop!" And he saw this beautiful woman. She was dressed in the most awesome clothes. And he walks up to her and he says, "You're the great sea princess, aren't you?" And she says, "Yes, I am, and I will be your new wife." And so they had this huge wedding at the palace in the beautiful island. And they lived very, very happily for many, many years.
8th grade is called Theater Arts at Frost, and today we were continuing with an ongoing project of storytelling. Students selected a story that met their talents as a storyteller and presented those, and that's been going on for a few days now. And then at the end of class, to get more people involved each day, we have been also having an ongoing theater sports tournament. Theater sports being a tournament of improvisations. Memorizing lines is important for discipline and all that, but I find that getting the kids on stage frequently and participating in something like improvisation removes a lot of the fear of failure, because you don't know what's going to happen anyway. And so they seem to enjoy this, and the competitive element also adds added interest to it. And their time begins now.
You have to think quickly on your feet, because you have to be able to, like in improvisation, you have to be able to go up there and make a whole plot and include certain words and items very quickly. And it actually, you develop a friendship with everyone in the class because you have to be able to work as a team with everyone.
You smell like mothballs. You smell.
The first thing I want you to find is there are 2 different important who people in the article. 2 different important who's. We are getting ready to work on a research project where instead of writing a typical research paper, the students are going to create a newspaper interview with a famous historical character, historical writer. So in order to start talking about the different parts of a news article, we have taken some notes. They had a quiz during the first part of the period, and then to reinforce what they've learned, I made copies of a newspaper article and asked them to label the different parts of the article. And instead of just having them label it and write it down, we had the running up to the board, candy-inspired race kind of activity, which they really enjoy. They get into it.
Like normal class, you just sit there and listen to teachers. But this class, you really don't have to sit and listen to her, kind of do activities or sort of like that. It's really different. It's fun.
And you don't want to do that. What is the safest car in the U.S.?
You found us in the middle of iSearch. It's an iSearch project for this ESL reading class. They are in the question formulation stage. We brought them down to the library so that they can utilize the tools we have here. These children come from a variety of cultures and have no ready access to any libraries in their country for the most part. We began with a KWL model, what I know, what I want to know, what I'm going to learn. Yesterday in class, they wrote down all the things they already knew or thought they knew about their projects. Today, we sat down third period and did some writing of questions.
I really would like to get in UVA, and I heard that if you want to get in, it's good to know how to use the library good.
As officials at Ellis Island, some of you at that time were not as kind and generous to the immigrants as others were. Some of the officials at that time were very good, very caring, and they appreciated their job, but there were other officials there who didn't like certain immigrants. Pick one of those groups, and that's the group that you're going to be prejudiced of. You're just not going to like them. You know, when they come up to you and they say to you, you say to them, where are you from? Or you see on their ID tag where they're from, and you say that they're from Italy, you say, oh, those Italians, trying to take the jobs from all of the Americans. So as much as we welcomed immigrants into our country, the individual people still felt a lot of prejudice. Everybody clear on that? This is a culminating activity that's being done by 2 U.S. history classes. Both of the classes are team taught. There are varying populations who are members of this class, and it's the culmination of our immigration unit. In this unit, we've been studying about the immigrants at the turn of the century and earlier who came to America, where they came from, why they came. In doing this, we've used the Interact model called a gateway simulation, and each child became an immigrant from a different country. As a part of this, they had to work together to earn miles to try to get to America. They did activities, they took quizzes on them. The different ships of children would perform different duties in order to try to come to America, get as many miles as they could. The ships that got the most miles getting to America became processors at Ellis Island. They got into America. The last ships that did not get as many miles today are the immigrants, and they're going to try to get into Ellis Island to try to get to America. It's good because it gives the kids, they're more engaged in it, they become a part of it. It's a more experiential learning, so that they're really a part of the whole process as an immigrant themselves, instead of just doing straight book learning and reading about it and watching movies and studying different things. They're actually becoming a part of it. It's also good because it becomes a bit of a game as they vie with one another to try to get the miles that they need to get to America.
This activity gave us the feeling of being a real immigrant and what they would have to go through during their process to be accepted to America.
I think this would help the kids out a lot more because, when you just watch a movie, a lot of kids don't pay attention. And in this, you have to pay attention because if you don't, you're not going to get a good grade because you have tons of papers. And it will just give the kids a better understanding of how to understand the hardships and all that stuff.
1922 is fine.
1958.
1958. Yeah, the North Korea War. Go ahead and send up there 1958. This is a class of 8th grade students studying history. They're deaf children. 2 of them have never been in school before, so this is their first formal education. And the girls that you saw are basically in a more traditional history. We go right through the history textbook. We started working on this timeline back in February because with the boys, our main focus, because they are so new to education, we're getting them reading and writing and getting them out of the classroom, doing some experience all over the building, and then coming back and writing about it. So back in February, I decided to start looking at the presidents and start really kind of getting into history a little bit with the guys, the boys. These guys, they need such visuals that I had to kind of step back and give them kind of a bigger picture. And then we started with the timeline. And it's kind of neat because the other students in the other classes keep coming by and they're looking at it and teachers are commenting and kind of seeing where they were born in relation to different things, and it's been really fun. Because we learned out of the magazines, we looked and cut out pictures, we put them on the wall, we understood very clearly the history and when things happened, the good things on the top, bad things on the bottom, and the different planning when things occurred.
This is a work and family studies class here at Frost Middle School. The class that you're observing is an 8th grade class that is working on a community service project, which is a integral part of our program of studies, the section involving community involvement and community service. What you see them working on today is that they are involved in a program called BEARS for Fair Oaks Hospital. When pediatric patients come to the hospital for emergency treatment or outpatient services or even extended hospital stays, the little bears are given as a way of trying to reduce some of the fears and anxieties that they experience in a hospital setting.
It makes me feel good that we're doing community service for people who are sick in the hospital and need help.
In 7th grade art, it's Introduction to Art, and we cover a wide variety of areas. As far as studio areas go, we focus on printmaking, building drawing skills, working with colored pencil, painting. We work in ceramics and introduce various cultures into the project, as well as sculpture. Sculpture is one of the units that we focus on last because students have built a wide variety of skills that allow this project to be successful, and it's also really fun. And they use all the skills they've learned previously.
The purpose of this unit was to learn about masks and how to make them. We learned about all the different cultures and how they made and used masks. We learned mostly about the Mexican culture. They used masks to worship their gods in ceremonies such as potlatch ceremonies. We had to work cooperatively in groups to design our culture. And in our culture, we emphasized the mouth and the eyes. And we had to make the masks, and we had to use form, line, shape, and we had to practice painting and how we mix the colors.
The reason we appreciated this unit was because we got to work cooperatively and creatively with our friends, creating a culture and then creating masks using paper mache, plastic, feathers, paint, and we learned how to mix colors, how to make contrast, use warm and cool colors to contrast. And right before this, we had done Matisse, which helped us work on our color contrast.
The process of making masks was actually very detailed. First, we watched a video about Northwest Indians, and then we read a magazine about African masks and the purpose of them. After that, we got into groups of around 3, and we made our own culture. We had a name. Ours was Eanjo. And we had to plan out what features would be stressed and what our masks would be alike by. Our features were the eyes and the mouth, and it was supposed to represent moods.
First of all, we're very lucky to have very good administrative support here for the art department in that we have both 7th grade and 8th grade art. The 7th grade is basically set up on a semester basis where students take art for approximately 18 weeks. And in the 8th grade, we have both semester and all-year art. Students experience in that time as much as we can possibly get forth to them in different areas and aspects of art, not only relating to the arts, but relating to their core subjects. Right now, the students are working on pop art, which was an art projects brought up in the 60s, and they've studied the history of the artists of that time and what was going on in America at that time, both musically, culturally, through the governments and what have you, that made the artists create the type of artwork that they were working on at that time, and they're trying to emulate that type of art. We also have students that are working on wire sculpture, emulating Calder artwork, and cell art. And we've been studying the Disney Corporation and their cell art, and we're trying to emulate some of their single-cell art.
This class has done a lot of very fun stuff, and it's been focused on like learning by doing. I mean, we've learned about the people of the time and stuff. The main education is by emulating these people.
SPQR stands for the Senate and the Roman people.
This is an 8th grade Latin 1 class. Latin 1 is a high school course, so we follow the POS of Fairfax County Fairfax County Public Schools, and I get together with the other Latin teachers to make sure that I am covering everything that all the high schools have, so they are prepared to go on to any high school. What's covered in Latin 1 are the various declensions, first 3 declensions of Latin, the 5 conjugations of verbs. They learn culture, they learn derivatives, they learn different aspects of Roman history.
Well, when I'm older, I plan to be a medical researcher, and since many medical terms are rooted or derived from Latin, I thought that it'd be a good concrete base for when I go to medical school.
For 10 years. At the end of the war, the Greeks...
Kidneys.
That's correct. Oh, nicely.
The Frost Bowl activities here, we started about 12 to 15 years ago. We have 10 different activities that the kids participate in outside of their homeroom classes on Fridays. It's a 40-minute class period. The homerooms that are not in activities by grade level are in a cooperative learning activity during that time. So when 7th grade is in activities, which they are today, the 8th graders are working on a crossword puzzle.
It may be a crossword puzzle or maybe a math puzzle or a News Jeopardy situation. The homerooms also have a chance to have a choice where they can read or do something else. This kind of taps into the Fairfax County middle school philosophy where the kids work together cooperatively and also compete with each other and socialize with each other about a half an hour a week every week.
Middle school, I think, is a great transition both for kids and parents as well. And one of the best things about Frost Middle School is that the staff here, and especially the principal, they're very aware of this turbulent time in our kids' lives. And as a PTA, our focus is really a lot about the social transition as well as the academic transition. And as a PTA, we offer parenting seminars, which the staff attends, where parents can, in a very informal atmosphere, ask questions about what goes on in a teenager's life at middle school. And the parents and the principal and the staff at Frost can work together to really help our kids as they grow and mature.
You know, there's a point in talking to parents when they talk about their children as they reach early adolescence, and some parents say that they think that trolls have stolen their lovely children at around age 11 and returned them and brought back surly strangers who say, "Hi, Mom," in this gruff voice instead of "hi," like they used to in elementary school. And I think that's a disconcerting period. What we find here, though, is that children have space to be themselves and to open up and to get a glimpse of what they're going to be like when they're adults, and to make all of us very, very glad that we chose this age level as one where we're going to spend the rest of our careers.